So I think we've got everyone coming in, and like I said, guys, we're gonna get started. We are recording the session, so if you need to pass along to anyone, or if you missed the beginning, don't worry, you can come back and we'll send out the recording to everyone. I just want to say welcome everyone to Truthful's first Amplify conference. This is our first time doing this, so hopefully everything goes off without a hitch. Hopefully everyone is logged in and your microphones and cameras are working. If you do have any trouble, I do suggest shutting down any of your tabs or browsers, or if you're using Teams, Skype, Zoom in another tab, shut that off and your speed will rebound and you'll be able to use the Big Maker tool here for the presentation. If you have any questions, feel free to just log them in the Q&A section and we'll get to them at the end. Ryan has been generous enough to give us a little bit of time at the end to answer any Q&As, and he'll also we'll give out his contact info if you have any follow-up questions directly for him. Real quick, I want to start off with a nice poll just to see where everyone's from. So there should be a puppet master named Tom working a poll right now that comes up on your screen. Throughout the presentation, there might be some other polls or questions. Feel free to answer them if you have time. It just helps us get some information and tailor the next session to each person in the province. So without any more kind of intro or kind of dragging this on, I want to introduce Ryan Townend with William Joseph. So he's going to be talking about branding and marketing, and I'll touch on a little bit about how to kind of change your branding and change your messaging kind of in a crisis situation. So Ryan, take it away.
Thank you. I hope you guys are all having a good morning. If we can pull up the slides, Tom, that'd be awesome. So I was just sharing with the guys back here, it's kind of interesting. Normally I have classrooms full of lots of people and it's a very interactive session and I drop lots of funny jokes, and unfortunately today I won't be able to hear you laugh. So please do put ha-has in the chat room. Let's talk a little bit about William Joseph. So I started this company 17, almost 18 years ago. I'm an entrepreneur. A lot of you folks are entrepreneurs too. So as a business owner, we have to take care of growth. We have to take care of our people and our culture, and marketing really touches a lot of those things. So we created this presentation a while back now, talking about really the importance of the art and science of marketing, building your awareness, building your brand, building your culture, and then getting your story out there. So this is my team. We've grown over the years. I'm from Wadena, Saskatchewan. So I started a farm kid and went to the big city of Munster for my first year of university, then U of S, and then I made my way out to Calgary. So we started the company from a basement. It was Tim and I, Ryan, William, Timothy, Joseph, William Joseph. We had $3,000, and here we are, almost 2 decades later. Quite large, and one of Western Canada's most powerful agencies. So the one thing that I always say to people, what limits your business growth is your mindset. How you think of yourself is really the reality that you're going to create. So I need you to all to stop for 1 minute today and think, who do you want to be when you grow up? I had $3,000 in a basement and I built this. So you can too. It's not your marketing budgets, it's not your sales folks, it's your mindset. So first of all, today, I need you to reset your mindset to think, are we thinking too small to be as big as we want to be? To do anything in life, if you want to save 10 bucks, we need to have a plan. If we want to lose 10 pounds, we need to have a plan. And if we want to grow by 10 or 100%, we need to have a plan. And I know marketing plans are things that people just hate, especially business owners. They're like, we're just doing stuff like we normally do. We just whip these ideas out and we'll see what works, or we don't need marketing. We have sales guys. You do need to have a plan. The less money you have, the more important the plan is, because we can't screw this up. If you only have 12 bucks, we have to make sure that those $12 work so well. So the first thing I'm going to say to you is, who has a marketing plan? And I think some of you would be like, and then you kind of put up your hand, and then I'd say, who uses this plan? And even less of you would put up your hand. So I think at this point, I need you to kind of really think about this. I'm not going to go into tons of detail as to what a marketing plan is, you know it, but I really need you to understand that the bigger you want to be and the faster you want to get there will activities. Hope that makes sense. The other thing too is we really need to figure out the resources and budgets to make this happen. So everybody in the company needs to get behind this. Your finance team has to really be on board with this marketing program because it's going to require cash. And your HR team is going to really need to get on board with this because it might mean shaping your culture in a different way. And your sales team has to get on board with this because this is going to help generate leads for them. So again, we need to really understand marketing isn't a person in the corner sitting there designing stuff. It's really strategically steering your company and bringing all the company principals and managers together to share this vision. Hope that makes sense. I think lastly, I just want to hit on with the marketing plan is accountability. I have seen way too many times people write a plan. They're like, Ryan, that's awesome. And then they shelf it. And then they just go back to doing what they did. So we need to make a commitment to change. If you want to change your business and you want to see things done differently, the plan will give you the direction, but you have to live it. So really there's an accountability, whether it's internally yourselves or working with an agency like us to help create that change. Hope that makes sense. So when you think of your company and your marketing, there's two sides to this story. So first of all, there's your brand. And we've all heard of brand. And so many people are like, oh yeah, our brand's our logo. Well, it's not quite. Your brand is your story that tells people what you do, why you do it, and who you do it for. I believe in your industry, a lot of you do really similar things for similar folks. So my question would be is, well, why would I hire you? What's different about you versus them that would make me work with you? I'm going to tell you right now, and I'm going to repeat this 17 times throughout this presentation, service, price, and quality are not differentiators because every one of you, 200 folks in this room today, are going to say, we offer great service for a great price for a great quality. That's not a differentiator, that's a given. So I really want you to understand that your brand tells the story about what you do, why you do it, and who you do it for. Once you've crafted that brand, how are we going to tell it? So how do we go out to the market to speak to your customers and build awareness, help convert that awareness to sales, and get them to come back and repeat and purchase and bring friends? So again, if you don't have a compelling story or you don't know how to effectively reach your market, it's going to fall short. So you have to think about both of these points. Does that make sense? Thumbs up. You should never guess in marketing. If you're sitting there going like, I don't know what to do. I don't know, I think this, or let's ask somebody in the office. That's not really strategic marketing. That's just guessing. Strategic marketing is done with proper research and data, so we don't make assumptions. Assumptions are so costly. If we think something and it's not true, we could build a whole marketing program on that. So you do need research and data. You have to remove your own personal bias. I've seen too many times, maybe people that are a little bit more traditional, a little bit more old school say, we would never do it that way. But your audience is like Gen Z. They don't think like you. So you have to do it differently to be responsive to that market. And it's sometimes really hard because we all have personal biases and we think of things through our own lens. So what we do at WJ always is we have to remove that personal bias and say, to effectively speak to reach this market, here's the best way to do that. So we're not making assumptions. Once you look at, you have compiled this research, we need to say, what is your business trying to achieve? So are you trying to grow this product line by 100%? Are you trying to grow into this new market? Are you expanding geography? You have to figure out like, what is the business doing? And then how can marketing support each of those initiatives? That's called like goal-oriented marketing or strategic marketing based on key objectives. And then you have to execute on that and measure. You can't just say, well, we want to do 8 things and do these 6 marketing activities. You would never have a correlation to know if it's working back and forth. Does that make sense? So this is an approach we use at WJ, and I want you guys to think about this with your own companies. So here's your homework. I'm going to take you through the insights, the brand phase, tactics, and implementation and measurement. I'm talking to you today, big picture. I'm talking to you how you're going to thrive in 2020 to 2030, how you're going to stand out amongst the crowd. We'll talk a little bit about pandemic marketing, but I need you to get the basics first, and then we'll move into specifics. So in the insights phase, you have to really, we take a deep dive into companies to see what's going on. A lot of times people are like, oh, it's marketing, that's the problem. To be honest, marketing can't fix a toxic culture. Marketing can't fix like a broken product. What good marketing does is make bad companies fail faster. So you really have to think like, is marketing the problem that we're having? If it is, let's continue on. If it's not, don't throw marketing under the bus. Look at other aspects of the company that might also be causing these concerns. What's going on in your industry? It's super important for us to be dialed in. COVID hits, things change on a dime. Economies go up, economies go down. What does that mean for us? Do we need to diversify? What is that happening? How are we positioned? So are we a premium shop? Are we known for our customer service? Are we a discount dealership? Like, what are we in the people's minds, and is that who we want to be? Who's your customer? We could do a whole segment for 2 hours on just this one topic. Your customer is more than an age bracket. Your customer is more than an income bracket. Your best customers come to you for a reason. They have a set of values that align with your values. And you just know these people. And you're like, oh, if I could have all my customers just like these folks, life would be amazing. Well, what makes those folks those folks? What values do they have that align with yours? And then let's go find more of those. We've all taken the customer for the dollar. That was like, oh, we know we shouldn't have gone there. They don't fit us. Fit comes from values. So understanding who your customer is from a demographic, psychographic, but also really dialing into like, what are those values? I don't know about you. Research seems very laborious and time consuming. And what are we looking for? If you don't like doing research, hire people like us. We love research, or hire a firm to help you. But you should always be dialing into understanding customer satisfaction. What are customers' current pain points? Really, you want to dial into the market sensitivities. You want to do a competitive review of your competitors. Research can give you all this information through an objective lens. When you own a company like me, I am not objective anymore with William Joseph. I need my team to bring me that information. I'm just too close to it. So when you go home tonight, and you say that Ryan guy told us we had some homework to do, I need you to think in the insights phase, what do I want my company to achieve? And you have to think of it from a quantitative perspective. Do I want to grow by 10%, 50%, or 500%? What product lines do I want to grow by what percent? How fast do I want this to happen? You're setting the standard right there. Everything from that point will shape all the activities your marketing program needs to do. I'm just going to talk about budget for a second. It's going to come up again. People always ask me, like, what does this cost? Well, there's two ways to develop a marketing budget. You can come and say, Ryan, I want to grow by 500% and go across the prairies and do X, Y, Z. What's it going to cost? It's like going to a car dealership. I want a vehicle with this. What's that going to cost? You can also come in and say, Ryan, I have $12. What's it going to get me? And we could then help you work backwards, or you build your marketing program backwards. Understand that sometimes the smaller budgets mean you can't grow as fast as you would have wanted to. I think ideally everybody goes into the car dealership looking for the Ferrari on the Ford budget. And I think that's what happens with marketing. People come in and say, we have $12, but we want to do world domination within 6 months. Doesn't quite work that way. Segment. All right, so we've determined how big our company is. We've looked at budget. We've looked at our business goals, and we've just talked about budget on the side. What's your product and service like? Do people want it? Is it meeting the needs of the world today, or is it out of date? It's really hard to sell something that people they don't want. We can do it. They might buy it once, they won't buy it twice. But you really have to understand that for this to work, you have to be dialed into solving the needs of your customers in a unique way that your competitors aren't. We're going to take an audit of your current marketing, creative tactics. Like, what have you done in the past? What's worked? What hasn't? I'm going to tell you, the world has changed so much in 3 years that if you have your marketing program from 3 years ago to today, you're probably like a clunky old car. It's no longer efficient, whether it's moving into the digital space, whether it's a social space. There's so much technology out there now in marketing that didn't exist like 3 years ago. You have to change what you're doing to maximize your budgets. Who is your target audience? We talked about that. Who's your customer? If you say everybody is your customer, you best have $1 billion like Coca-Cola to market to all those people. You're much smarter to segment your client base to figure out, okay, these are the groups I'm going after. This is their problems. This is why I uniquely solve them, and really tailor your messages to each of those groups. Competitive analysis, it's so important to look at the competitors. I think you have to look at them to be aware of what they're up to, but don't obsess on them. I've seen people try to copy their competitors, and I'm like, how do you even know they had a plan? They could just be winging ideas out and you're copying somebody guessing. So you really do need to sit back and go, okay, like what are their strategies? What are they saying? And then how does that really affect me from a perception? And lastly, what's going on in the industry? Your industry is changing really quite quickly. So how is technology playing a role in your industry? How is the even the economy playing a role in your industry? You have to adapt. Marketing and business is a game of chess. You have all these pieces. And the whole idea here is we have to put the pieces on a chessboard, look at our strategy, and start making moves. But when your competitors move, then you move. And when your customers move, you move. You're always pivoting now in marketing. There's no such thing as like a strategic marketing plan that will last 3 years and you won't change it. You're always now dialing into the sensitivities in an agile manner. Does that make sense? Insights, research, putting all the chess pieces on the board. Okay, let's talk about brand. So people, when they think about branding, different things come to mind. Like they kind of think, oh, Ryan, it's our logo, it's our colors, it's our website. Well, brand is important because it does provide you direction for your websites, your ads, your brochures, your social media, your storefronts. You have uniforms. What a brand really is it talks about how you treat your customers. It's all about your experience. So if you think about your company, people that have worked with you and told their friends about you, that's word of mouth, and that's a great way to get business. But people that don't know you and don't know anyone that's worked with you, they're gonna learn through your marketing. They're gonna learn through your brand who you are and what it's gonna be like to be a customer of yours and whether or not they fit, their values align with yours. So your marketing has to talk about the experience they're gonna have, the culture that you have internally. That's really important too. Like your people are your culture and your culture is your brand. So if you put out an ad that say we are the friendliest folks and they come into reception and there's a scowling person, you're going to be like, oh, I must be in the wrong place. This isn't in alignment. Or if you say you're a problem solving organization and the first meeting they're like, yeah, we don't know how to help you. Well, that's not in alignment. So you can see right now, if the brand has certain attributes, your culture has to live those attributes for this to feel authentic. Otherwise, it's just like you sold me something that's not real. You also think back to like the days where Air Canada was Air Canada and WestJet was WestJet. They had two totally different personalities, experiences, and brands. So I could blindfold you, put you on a plane, and I'd be like, what plane are you on? And you'd be like, oh, Ryan, it's WestJet. Like, I love their jokes because they live the brand, right? You see how experience and branding are the same? So I really just want to make sure that you guys understand this. It's more than just a color. It's the experience that you provide. So how we at William Joseph define brand, it's the promise, the big idea, and the expectation that resides in the head of each customer's mind about a product, service, or company. So when I think of Trufala, what comes to mind? The things that start coming to mind are there because the brand has taught me who they are, what they do, and why they do it. I really need you to understand, though, when you talk about branding, you have to talk about your why, like why you exist. This goes back to Simon Sinek, not what you do. Because if you just talk about what you do, I'll be like, that's awesome. How much does that cost? Then I'll go to Buddy down the road and I'll be like, oh, what do you do? And he'll say the same thing. And I'll be like, oh, what do you charge? And I'll be like, oh, who's cheaper? Because you guys are the same, right? Both of you will cringe. You'll be like, no, we're totally different. Well, why are you different? You didn't tell me why you're different. So people's marketing, as soon as I go to a website or start seeing their literature that's like, here's the things we do, and that's all it is just factual, the what? I'm like, okay, you just pretty much set me up to ask for your price, and then I'll just cross compare you because you haven't sold me on why you're different. I bet a lot of you are like this. So how do I define my brand? So this is a bit of a science. Honestly, like, it's very important to go through this process because otherwise you'll end up with a laundry list of what you do. So you have to, first of all, create your story, and then you have to then create the graphics to support your story. So there's a model we use at William Joseph, and it's a little bit of a complex model. I'll try to make it simple here today. We always start with the why. Why do you exist? Do you exist to help farmers maximize their coverage, or do you reduce the risk of like stress in entrepreneurs' lives? Like, why do you guys do this? Like, what's your why? And once you start figuring out what your why is, then you start saying, well, here's what we stand for as a company, and here's our values and attributes. Remember, your values and attributes are not service, price, and quality. It's like me saying, come to William Joseph, we have a floor and ceiling. Yeah, I get it. Everyone says that. Why you? What makes you, you? What values do you have that are different than others? What's your language? So when you start thinking of your personality, like, are you RBC? Are you ATB? They're totally different brands, totally different personalities. They're both banks. So the end of the day, they're projecting a different personality to appeal to a different audience. And what's your key messaging? So when we talk to different folks, what is the story we're telling them? You can't say the same thing to everybody because it's not going to resonate. Not everybody that you deal with has the same problem. The other thing too with messaging, you have to understand there's two types of messaging. There's rational messaging and emotional. So rational messaging is, here's the reasons why you should hire us. Emotional is building trust, likability. People buy from companies they like and trust. So that's more the softer side, but just as important as the hard-hitting facts. I was having a lunch and learn one day in the office here, and we had a whole bunch of sandwiches, and I said to the participants, I don't want leftovers. Please dig in, help yourself. No one did anything. I was like, okay. And I said, just so you know, my grandma got up this morning and she made all these sandwiches for you. Are you sure you don't want one? Guess what happened? Everyone lurched across the table and grabbed a sandwich. And I kind of snickered to myself and I said, do you guys see this? I rationally told you what to do. You did nothing. I emotionally threw in a little grandma guilt and you all acted on a dime. So think about that with your own messaging. You don't always, it's a blend of both. When it also comes to your messaging, you always have to understand, like, who am I selling to? What is it that I'm selling them? Like, what is the problem that I'm solving for them? So what is my solution? And why would we be the best people to do this? Like, you have to think of that ahead of time because good marketing answers people's pain points before they even get to you. So if you know people are always like, oh, they always ask this question, why don't we wait for it? Why don't we get ahead of that question in our marketing and make sure it's really clear so that that removes that barrier and that removes that barrier. So at the point when they come to talk to you, it's more converting versus convincing. So now that we've crafted this story, and this is really an important exercise when you have multiple principals, multiple owners, because nobody agrees on the same thing. Bob thinks this, Sam thinks this, Ali thinks that. We need to get you all on the same page from what our brand story is. Then we move into graphics, okay? I'm gonna tell you something about graphics. This is not personal. People get so emotionally charged, like, I love this logo, my kid drew it in the 80s, or I hate blue, I would never use blue. It's not about you, it's about your customers. It's about converting your customers to spend dollars. So if green's gonna make them buy, I think you might wanna really rethink your personal views and kind of go with what the science says. One of my staff told me once, Ryan, we could do what you want, or we could do what's gonna make you money. You pick. From that moment on, I learned my lesson. I was like, marketing is a science. If blue is what's gonna convert my people to make, go from awareness to sales to repeat customers through a brand, blue it is. So WJ, we use something called a Brandboard to build out your brand, and I need you to think about this. So again, I'll show you our example. So this is the William Joseph Brandboard. So it's comprised of a series of colors. So you can see on that angle, we have a navy blue, a gray, a dark brown, and a gold, a silver and gold. So our color palette was really built on our core anchor colors, and we've added some accent colors. We've looked at what style of imagery and videography do we need. So we need this to all be consistent. So when people see this, they're like, oh, that's WJ. So we used really bold, oversaturated colors. And we showed people through our imagery how we've changed the world working with them, right? We don't necessarily show what we do, but we show the impact our work has on our clients, and then the impact our clients have on the world. So you kind of see the types of imagery. If you also notice, we're using angles. So at William Joseph, we're a growth company. So we help companies grow. We grow your sales, grow your brand awareness. And so we're always talking about growth curves. So if you notice, our angles throughout this presentation are growth curves throughout. And again, the reason why you do this is for consistency. So when people see your stuff, they see your billboards, they see your ads, they see your business card, they're like, oh yeah, that's that company. And it gets to the point where they can just spot it. You could spot an Apple iPhone box or an Apple store just out of the corner of your eye, because you could just recognize those lines, the white, the cleanliness of it. That's just Apple, right? So big brands, strategic brands are all about developing consistency. And here's an ad we designed. The positive thinker sees the invisible, feels the intangible, and achieves the impossible. So you can see how this is a really emotional ad. It's not saying we do graphic design and websites and social media, blah, blah, blah. It's it's more telling people that when you work with us, we can achieve the impossible. The other thing that's really interesting is that you can see how we're bolding those keywords. So we're a bold agency, and with those growth curves. And here's an example of the consistency. So everything that we do at a WJ has the same look and feel. You can see the colors, the fonts. We talk about how brand transcends culture and experience. So all of our WJ offices have this white tables, where you can actually just write on them, right? Like it's just, instead of writing on a wall, we write on our tables. It's a part of the experience you have at WJ, and we use that in our marketing because people love that. They're like, oh, you know, you have all the smart boards, but at the end of the day, we draw on tables to figure things out. So part of who we are, and so we show that in our marketing as a part of our experience. We're trucking through at an incredible rate here. Does that make sense? So you have to build your brand, your written brand, and your visual brand before you start telling this story. I always tell people it's like you have to clean up your house before you invite people over, right? So if you don't have a good brand, please don't waste your money on advertising it, because it's not really going to work. It's not going to maximize your dollars. You would change your brand. People always ask me this, how often should I change my brand? Well, by 3 years, it's getting out of date. It might need a little polish. That's called a brand evolution. You don't change it. You just kind of maybe change a little bit of the font, maybe the colors. You update it, okay? Brand evolution. You would rebrand your company if you said, okay, we were in this market, now we're going into these markets, but people only knew us in this market. Time to rebrand. You got to reset this so people think of you in different ways. If you buy a new company, you might say, I want to put my touch on it, so you'd rebrand it. Let's say things went sideways and it has a terrible reputation. You might rebrand after you fix the problem to show people, hey, we've made a commitment to change. Please do not get stuck on your logo. I find too many business owners are so emotionally attached to their logo, and we've designed beautiful brands, like beautiful. And the owners are obsessed with keeping that old icon. And the thing is this, I get it, because that old logo showed where you started. It was good enough to get us here. Like it's who we are. That's true. It should be honored. But just like you're still not wearing your clothes from the 70s. You're wearing 2020 clothes. So don't do your company a disjustice. Please allow it to also grow and be relevant in its market. So let's talk about tactics. So, okay, we've done our research, we put all the chess pieces down, we built our brand, it looks amazing, and we've got the story in line, we've got the look and feel in line. Now what? So we always go back and say, well, what do we want to achieve as a company? So we might say, well, we need to rebrand ourselves and build, get our new name out there, or get our name out there, because we're looking too out of date. Or we want to drive sales in this market, or X, Y, Z. So you as a business owner will list your objectives. These are the 5 things, Ryan, I want to do. Okay. And then basically what we do is we chart it out. Now, this chart is totally made up. So please don't be taking photos of it and calling me saying, Ryan, is this true? This is not true. It's totally made up. So to build awareness, you might do these tactics. To do leads and engagement, you might do these tactics, or to reposition yourself in the market, you might do these tactics. No 2 companies have the same tactical marketing plan. We worked with Shell and Chevron back in the day in up at Albion Sands. They had similar skin in the game, but how we marketed both companies were completely different because of their personalities, because of who they were, their value systems. That shaped not only the brand, but even the tactics, okay? So that's where you can't just copy this. I want to talk about just for a minute here about a website. Like, a website is a pivotal tactic, not a pivotal, critical tactic in your marketing program. It's the engine of it. You can't go out and say, hey, I just need a website. What's it going to cost? That would be exactly like me going, hey, I need a new engine for my vehicle, but I'm not sure what kind of vehicle I have. Kind of sounds silly now, right? You have to think like, if you have a marketing program and there's going to be leads coming in and marketing going out and sales presentations and all these activities hovering around it, how do they all plug in, right? And then you think, well, do we want to project a brand like we're a national firm, or do we want to just look like a little corner store? Because if we want to be a national firm, that's going to take a pretty robust website to educate people and show how smart we are. If we're a little firm just down the corner, maybe a one-pager would work. So there's so many variables that come into play here that really dictate the scope of a website. It's doing yourself a disjustice to go out and say, I'm trying to get a website quote without saying, here's my website, or here's my marketing plan and strategy. I need a website that plugs in. What does that look like? Does that make sense? That is a question I get 100% of the time. I just really need you to know a website isn't just a website. It has a lot of features and benefits that are custom to your program. Okay. Perfect. So once you have your objectives laid out for the year, what's that going to cost for time and money? And really, this is a very simplistic Excel spreadsheet. There's very fancy software out there now to manage all this, but I want to just get home the principles. We're going to do these 7 things in these months. Here's where the time and money is. Here's our budget. So I always tell people you need to budget, spend 15% of your budget on strategy. We need to have a plan, because it's better to spend 85% the rest of your budget strategically than guessing on 100%, right? That doesn't make any sense. So budget out 85%, or sorry, leave 85% for the tactics. Then take approximately 70% of that, 75% of that, and fill in this chart. Because the more we can lay out the year, the smarter we can spend or maximize your budgets, spend your dollars wisely. So for example, like we see this all the time. Video is huge. You need to have video in your marketing program. So we're gonna have to go and do a video shoot. But if we knew that we're gonna use this video for social media and corporate trade shows and your website and educational and all these different aspects, we'll shoot it once and cut it up about 27 different ways, if that makes sense. Because the smarter you have, like the more you think it out, the smarter you can utilize your budgets. So that's really important. Leave 10% of your budget for just amazing things that will drop in. I didn't necessarily see a TrueFluck conference coming along. Did you? There's opportunities like this all the time that you kind of say, geez, we have to save a little bit of money in our budget for great things like this to help build our brand. So 15% goes to strategy, 75% build in for your tactical plan, and then leave like 10% for good things that will drop into your life. Okay, this slide is super important. This is called the 3 key customer and buyer touch points. This too is a whole session in itself. It's called customer journey mapping. So when you think of a customer, from the start to the finish, a customer has to know that they have a problem, or you have to bring it to their attention that they have a problem. I think in the game of insurance, I'm just going to speak personally. I know I need it. I probably would investigate it more if I had to use it. So I'm aware of it, but it's not a priority until it's made a priority. So when we look at the awareness phase, people have to figure out that they have a problem and they have to know that you're the solution. So how are you going to get top of mind to them? Before the pandemic, I lived on planes. The only way you'd really get me is through my phone. I don't get the newspaper. I don't watch TV. I don't listen to radio. How would you get me? Maybe an airport billboard. I don't seem to look at them either. It's all in here. So from an awareness perspective, you have to get your name out there. You have to understand, like in the scrolling world, like on this, you have like 3 seconds to get my attention so that I look at this and I go like, oh, that's exactly what I'm experiencing. How did they know? Click. So you have to be at the right place and say the right thing. Remember, brand tactics. So now you got my attention. So what am I going to do? I'm probably going to click and go to your website. So in the buying space, it's all about education. I have so many friends and staff members even, they're like, Ryan, I hate sales. I hate sales. I'm like, why do you hate sales? And they're like, because I hate convincing people. If you do it right, you don't need to convince. It's all about educating. If you can educate the buyer in the buying space and show value for price, then the sale naturally happens. In the absence of education and demonstrating value, people won't pay that price. Okay. And once they bought from you, how do we then keep them loyal? So keep them coming back and bringing their people of similar values back to you as well. So you move customers through the awareness phase, the buying phase, and consumption and loyalty phase. That is a lot in 40 minutes. Okay. Hope you guys got it. I hope you're keeping up. Okay, let's take this through now. So marketing during the pandemic. This goes back a little bit. It was really tricky at the beginning, right? Because everyone's like, well, what do we do? So you had to refocus your marketing programs to say the right things. I saw some ads that were still running that were in an auto program. And I'm like, dude, turn them off. This is not appropriate to say. So you really had to be sensitive to your target audience, and you still do. So we work with a company in Saskatchewan called Orano, and all of a sudden from our messaging that was normally in the queue just pivoted. And we really wanted to thank frontline staff and thank people for everything that they did. And we really turned the messaging on the dime, right? So I think being supportive and sensitive, this is not a time to make high pressure sales. This is a time to support your clients, your suppliers, their families, and your community. From there, I'm going to move this on. What we started to see was, how does the pandemic also shape your culture? So I'm going to jump now from externally to internally. Internal communications is one of the biggest markets you must focus on. If your team is not on board with what you're doing, don't expect your customers to be. So when you look at your target audiences, internal teams, number 1. And how do you communicate with those internal teams? So as much as we talk about building brands, they have to live the brand. So you have to educate. Anyways. So when the pandemic hit, people had to start figuring out, well, how do we work from home? So we adapted a very technology virtual world. We at William Joseph did that anyways. That was zero change for us. But, again, we started to see our teams were coming together and creating little fun events and stuff online to keep that culture going. I think, how do we survive this time together, or what's important to you right now? Those are the various answers our team came up with. Toilet paper, tequila, believe, and dance. Kind of shows you a glimpse of who we are. I think communication is critical. Transparent, authentic communication is paramount. You must tell your network how you're adapting. So I think it is so critical for us to really be transparent with, like, if we're offering new services, like, again, you would see it more in the business space or in the B2C space, where it would be like curbside pickup, whatever. How has your company changed though? Do your customers understand that? So we created events like Date Night In for one of our clients in Calgary, the Vin Room, where we gave the Vin Room experience at your home. All content during this time period should be authentic and empathetic. Please do not just write what you see everyone else write, because that becomes annoying. I think when you saw the letters from the presidents that were actually heartfelt and really true to their values, that resonated with you. When you saw that generic messaging that everybody else said, yeah, shut it off. And I think Dove did just a wonderful job. Dove is always about making people feel beautiful for who they are. Encourages beautiful. So this was a brilliant campaign that Dove did again during COVID. It was in alignment with their brand, but it was also, it just perfectly hit the authentic, empathetic communication targets. And be perceptive and bold. I think the thing is what I find is if you're going to be neutral, don't say anything at all because no one's going to even notice. It's kind of like vanilla ice cream. It's better with the strawberries on top. So be perceptive and bold. We saw companies like Manjeet Minhouse, a friend of ours, she like pivoted on a dime and she took her breweries and turned it over into creating hand sanitizers. Other companies did bold things during this time. They did it because it matched their values and they helped their community. And that was a bold and wonderful move. So to all the companies that have done things like that, kudos. Sometimes what happens is after situations like a pandemic or a oil crash or whatever, we see marketing go, we see a downturn happen. And really at that point, what we have to understand is like, what do we do? So there's two types of business owners. There's types of business owners when the going gets tough, they stop spending, cut all spending. Marketing's gone, everything's gone. There's pros to that. Like you don't know when your next sale is coming. Like maybe we have to kind of conserve cash. There's other business owners that full throttle it. They're like, Ryan, like if it's tough out there, I want to be sure my name is number one. Every deal that's getting done, I want to do it, get my name out there. So there's pros and cons of marketing in a downturn. And I truly do feel that it comes to the risk tolerance of the owner. I could personally provide you 100 Harvard Review Journal documents that show you why marketing during a downturn will help your business in the long run. And I will have some business owners dispute every one of those papers because they just don't believe it. So my job today isn't to convince you to do marketing. I'm here to educate you about what it can do for you and why you should do it. Once you've created your plan and everything's in motion, we look at the implementation and measurement phase, and that's really the last phase. So this is now when we start building stuff and doing things. And some clients get really frustrated. They're like, Ryan, we have spent all this time doing the research, building the brand, writing the plan. Let's get at it. Well, here's the time. And really, when you start putting products in the market or when you start putting your tools and tactics in motion, you have to measure how they're performing, but you have to measure the right thing. You have to understand what you're measuring. So if you put out an e-newsletter, let's say, and you look and say, okay, who read this article and no one read it? What is that telling you? Is that telling you that you spun it the wrong way? Like, did you sell it rationally and maybe it was an emotional sell? Or so then you might change it and then write it differently and put it out next month. Let's say nobody still reads it. At some point you go, like, do people even care? Like, what is this telling us? So I think the thing is marketing can be a really good barometer as to the public's perceptions and the public's appetite for what you're putting out there, especially like during with social media and digital marketing. I'm not sure how savvy all of you are out there, but you can do like testing where you will run several different ads and see which ones perform and resonate with your target audiences and then start dialing in. So I don't think marketing anymore is cut and dry. Like, let's just run a billboard. You can really hone in through both quantitative and qualitative measures. I think it's also like at the end of the day for me, I look at leads coming in. Did those leads convert? So sometimes some of the tactics we do are hard to measure. Like if we have a billboard up in a building, well, people don't tend to say, Ryan, I called you because I saw that billboard, but that billboard layered on top of our magazine, layered on top of this presentation, it's the synergy of all those pieces that cause people to call. Social media is now a given. I think 2 years ago, I would have said it's an option. Now it is a given. You must be on social media. Consumers want to have a relationship with your company, and that relationship starts through seeing how you behave, especially the newer generations. They want to understand your values, what you stand for, what you do, and they want to associate with companies that they fit with, right? So social media does give you that platform to connect with. How was that? that was a power run, I'll tell you. So at this point, I've used up all of my time. I was going to rip through some examples, but I think we're going to leave that for another day. Is there any questions that the audience has that they want me to answer for the next 5 minutes?
So just so everyone knows, there is a Q&A channel where you can throw your questions in.
Let's not everyone rush at the same time. Here's
Hey, Ryan.
the thing. Yes?
Ryan, real quick, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, beautiful. I don't think anyone can see me, but if you guys can hear me, since I see some questions coming in, but I'm lucky enough to have a microphone, so I'm going to ask my question first, if that's okay, Ryan.
Sure.
So I know on this call we probably have lots of brokers from across Canada who've done an amazing job at building their brand locally, right? And now, without the ability to interact with customers in the same way they used to, people coming into the office, getting to know the team, seeing everybody, they have a lot more reach now. There's an opportunity to reach more customers and write more policies outside of maybe their town that they were focused on. What would be the first steps for those brokers as they want to kind of move into a bigger market or reach outside of their local area?
Right. So I think the thing is, like, I would always say, like, you need to have an integrated plan to figure out how this all looks. But really, I think digital marketing has allowed us to quickly jump into markets that we haven't been in before, right? So again, digital marketing could be a video, it could be an ad, it could be linking to a blog post that educates people. It's like on a flip of a switch, I could have you in all these different markets segmented by the type of demographic you want to be and on their phones, like literally like that. We're running a LinkedIn campaign right now targeting business owners in specific markets that are having troubles or are wanting to grow in this challenged economy. They don't know how to do it. So we dialed this in and we're doing a digital campaign, and it drives them to a landing page on our website. We can see conversion. So there's all these opportunities now, I think, to reach new audiences in a way that you were able to before, but people are at home now. They kind of have a captive audience. So I think definitely digital marketing is critical in today's time. I think the biggest thing too for brokers, this is more from me being a consumer, I guess, as well as a marketer, is differentiation. Why you? You're so similar to the consumer, I can't tell the difference. So it's wonderful to like the people you deal with. Like, I love certain reps and I love certain people. I love Bob. That's great if Bob's the owner. But then what happens if Bob isn't the owner and they just work there and then they move to another brokerage? Well, who am I loyal to? Am I loyal to Bob or that brokerage? I'm loyal to Bob. I'm out. I wouldn't even know the brokerage's name. Like, I just like that person. So if you haven't done a good job building your brand and somebody leaves, I think your book of business would leave with them. And we see that in oil and gas and so many industries. You have to make sure that it's both building relationships with your team and with your customers, but building a relationship with your brand and your customers. What should the average spend be for marketing, and what portion should this be spent on social? Love this question. So that again totally depends on your growth. I don't believe that there's a set percentage. Like, if you literally say, Ryan, I want to full throttle this year and I want to triple and be super aggressive, that would cost more than if we're just trying to sustain, right? The budget you would just change. Or if you're like, holy man, like 4 new brokerages just came up in our town, like, you might have to spend a lot of money just to even maintain that business, right? So it's really tricky to kind of give it a percentage. And that's why I think sometimes when you go through this plan and you start laying out all the things, you can kind of see what dollars that looks like. Yeah. I think another question that I sometimes get a lot is, like, should we hire an agency or should we hire a person? And that's a really interesting mix, because sometimes what happens is, like, when you work with an agency, we have a ton of people that with really specific skills. So we can harness in on things really quickly and give you high level thinking. When you hire a person, one person can't do everything. You cannot program a website, write a strategy, and code and do X, Y, Z. So you really have to figure out, like, what is it that you need in your company. What I sometimes see is a lot of a hybrid, where we'll do specific tasks or high level thinking or those projects that you just don't have time to do. And then we work with an internal team that says, okay, great, you guys got that. So it's just kind of like their team grew in different areas and allowed them to focus on the core work.
Yeah. Ryan, another quick question. Actually, this is a great one from Jared. These are all the brokers on this call that they're small business owners first, right? So for most of them, they're not going to have time to focus on multiple social media channels. If you had to pick one channel, where would you tell them to focus their time?
Great question. Who's your target audience? So if your target audience is business owners, let's go over to LinkedIn. If your target audience might be women in their 50s, maybe that's a Facebook. If you're trying to go after some young folks, well, maybe we're on TikTok. I won't make you dance, but it's just like radio stations. Like, do you listen to country music? Do you listen to dance, classic? Like, you just have to, social media is just another form of media. And you have to figure out where's our audience on and what are they listening to. Like, so many young people now absolutely hate Facebook because mom's on it and it's so not cool. Well, okay, that's not going to work. So, but oh, mom's on it. Oh shit, then let's go over there because that's good.
No, that's perfect. And then I have a great question from Tanya. So, with all the protests happening in the U.S. and around the world, what should brands be doing? Apple recently turned off their music subscription services on Tuesday in support of Black Lives Matter, and we see emails from CEOs in support of that cause. Should businesses stay silent, keep the business as usual, or should they make a comment and kind of attack the issue head on?
It's a great question. I think that goes back to your value system too, right? So we see some of the companies we work with just are so dialed into humanity. And when things like this happen, they don't even honestly wait for these opportunities. They're a champion of human causes every day. They proactively go out and do key messages. So when awareness campaigns like this, activities like this happen, they will bring out their support, through the initiatives. Other companies are a little bit confused, to be honest. I've had people call saying, I don't know what to do. I think we should do this, but should we? Because they don't want to do something wrong. I think that's the challenge. So many brands they want to do the right thing, but they just don't know what the right thing is, right? So we always say it has to go back to your value system that you as your company have. And if you do feel strong about a movement of any sort, then please do get involved and do it. I always tell people, don't just do it because you think it's the right thing to do. Do it because it's who you are.
Perfect. And just so everyone knows, it sounds like there are some issues with the chat feature right now. So there should be a Q&A prompt somewhere on your screen where you can submit questions to the Q&A section, and I'll read them off for you.
Yeah, and I do encourage everyone, like, if you do have questions about marketing after the presentation, please do reach out to me. I'll have the team here share my email. It's r.townend@williamjoseph.com. No S, Townend. And the company's website is williamjoseph.com. And I'm a small business owner. I get it. I am no different than you. I have a little ATB bank card. I run this place. It's tricky. Like, we have rent, we got payroll, we got marketing, like, where do I put my money? So I think what makes our company a little bit unique is that I sit in your shoes, or I'm in your shoes. I sit in your same spot, and it's a balancing act, right? But if we don't invest in marketing, we're not investing in our company, and that will eventually really start having a negative effect on your bottom line. And I think that's the question I always say to people is like, yeah, you think it's expensive with marketing? Try to see how expensive it is without marketing when you have no sales, because your team are spinning in circles. This is a LinkedIn post I wrote a day or two ago, and I just really want to hit this one home too. Your team needs marketing to succeed. You have sales folks. And I have people that come into my office so often, Ryan, we need marketing. I'm crying for it. Management doesn't see the value. They won't approve it. Do you know how much time is being wasted by people being so unhappy or disgruntled or not being able to do their job properly? And I think that's the one thing I just encourage every business owner on this call is to just listen to your staff. Give them, I don't care if it's marketing or whatever, understand what they need to succeed to help you grow and support them with those tools to do it. I literally had this conversation where a gentleman couldn't get a $2,000 brochure, and he literally was like, I feel like quitting and I'm demotivated. And I'm thinking to myself, if my staff ever felt that way over a $2,000 brochure, I would just be sick. Like here it is. Go do your job now. Are you great? Good. So please always understand, listen to your team, support them with what they need, and because again, they're there to help you grow.
And then another great question is, having never experienced the pandemic, how do you know what information to rely on and resources to use when creating or adapting your marketing strategy?
Great question.
I think maybe a follow-up on that, Ryan, is not only where you get your data, but like how fast should you pivot in some of these situations so you don't make the first move, I guess.
As much as the pandemic is uncharted territory, I've lived through recessions where the oil and gas market, everyone stops spending and like on the same day. And like the world just does this. And so it's like driving on a smooth road and then it goes bumpy. And then it's like, well, how do we drive? And then how do we like get back on smooth roads? It's just all about adaptability, right? Like you have to be prepared. The only constant in our life is that it's going to change. So whether it's a pandemic or this or this or this, so you have to always go back to what's authentic to you as a company. Authentic, empathetic, transparent communications. So when things start going sideways, pause, think, communicate empathetically, right? Because I think that will never get you in trouble. But I think sometimes you have to rely on experts because even for me, I like lean on my strategy team to be like, okay, this is happening. What should we do? How do we rely on this? We look at pros and cons of all different aspects of how we'd respond. We come up with what's true to us, and then we proceed forward. I don't think if you're empathetic, transparent, and authentic, you can go wrong.
That's a great answer. One question I've been dying to ask you for a while, Ryan. Being in Calgary, how I've seen you around and seen your company around. How do you guys market? Like, what channels do you guys use, and where do you see, like, where do you put your brand messaging?
Oh gosh, our marketing is so robust because we have now 5 offices across Western Canada. So it's grown from a basement to a larger organization. We do a little bit of everything, and it's very strategically targeted to specific markets, right? So we love working with entrepreneurs. So we'll be creating content targeting towards entrepreneurs. We'll be out at the RBC Fast Pitch competition out at Haskayne as a judge on the team with new entrepreneurs. Like we'll do entrepreneurial giveaways. Like we do tons of stuff in that space. But then we're big in bioscience and like research, and we're big in agriculture and oil and gas. So we look at all of our different markets. We figure out initiatives that are relevant in each of those markets. We kind of gave up on the idea of advertising. We just said, you know what, we're going to create our own WJ magazine that we do twice a year. It's a marketing magazine. And the whole goal there was we're going to publish our thought leadership and our case studies and all of our knowledge and just share it with people that we want to work with. So we didn't rely on a media channel. We created our own. We're on global TV on an advice segment once a month. We write in newspaper, business magazines. So our marketing program is beyond robust. And we do track what's working, where the leads are coming from. And I think the more integrated it gets, though, that's what creates momentum. You just made the mention, Ryan, I've known you. I've seen you guys around. Marketing isn't about a thing. It's about creating momentum. And momentum comes from different aspects.
And then this is actually a great question from Ken here. If every staff member is a marketer, how do you encourage this as a corporate cultural norm? So
that's wonderful. Like that starts at the top too. Like you'll see really dynamic leaders that are people are saying like we're trying to bring our team together. We talk about it, like we talk about our core values almost every week in our staff meetings. We share like here's what we're doing from a marketing perspective. We build culture and brand. We encourage everyone to bring ideas to us. So it's not like it's a mindset more than a module of things to do. But when you have a culture mindset and you have everybody on the same page and everyone's kind of having a part of it, they own it. And when they own it, they want to share it, right? So we'll have our staff just like, we have a really great culture at William Joseph, and our staff, like they will call me like, Ryan, my friend needs marketing. And I was telling them how great we are. They'll bring those clients in, or, again, it's a little bit integrated and holistic.
I do want to be respectful of everyone's time. So if there's a couple more questions, feel free to shoot them in, and we'll try and sneak them in real quick. So just give it a second for everybody.
Yeah. And like I said, if anyone has any other questions here, please do reach out to me via email, and I'm happy to answer them. We have, like, again, if you want to even sit down and more in depth and really discuss your marketing, feel free to reach out. We can have a chat over virtual coffee, or water, and discuss things.
Yeah. So I just want to say, first of all, thank you, Ryan. This was great. I'm seeing a lot in the chat here, just lots of thumbs up, and thanks for the advice. For everyone on the call, just so you know, we are going to try and make sure we get a copy of the presentation out to everybody. Oh, I see Tom is raising his hand here. He's giving a thumbs up. So thanks to everyone who came. We're going to try and make as much of this available and provide you with Ryan's contact information after this. And I believe we are recording this so we can send it out. Thanks again, Ryan. I invite everyone to come back at noon Mountain Time for another great presentation here in the Amplify series by Jeff McCann from Apollo. And he's going to be talking about emerging segments in the new normal. So we're excited for that. And hopefully I see everyone back here at noon.
Thanks, everyone. Chat soon.